All right, hi guys. Today's video is all about rhythm, and I'm going to share with you 5 easy tips with a bunch of little bonuses and bits of information in there as well that are going to help you a ton with your rhythm. Now, rhythm is pretty much the most important thing you can work on as a musician. I tell all my students that rhythm is everything, and it really is. This applies to anything you do, any instrument you play, and this is going to make a huge difference. It even makes a difference with the music that you listen to. So if you're new to my channel, I'm Phil. My channel's pretty new, but I've been teaching guitar most of my life, and I've been helping people like you really improve anything that they want to improve on. So thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I hope this and other videos on my channel can help you a ton. So tip number 1 is to tap your foot along with everything. Most of these tips are all about connecting with the beat, connecting with the groove, and latching on, holding on to it for dear life. So whenever you're listening to music, anytime you can, whenever you're playing music, tap your foot along with almost everything. Now, playing or tapping your foot while you're playing music or while you're singing is a whole different ballgame, and that requires a bunch of practice. But for now, just get used to tapping your foot along with everything. Now, you can also bob your head, you can drum along. We're looking for some kind of physical movement that connects you exactly with that beat. And you're going to get more and more used to connecting with that. And you're going to get more and more accurate, because everyone has a little clock in their head, and we're looking for it to be as precise as possible. Okay, tip number 2 is to count along with whatever music you're listening to or playing, of course. So you probably know that most music that we run into is in what we call 4/4 time, which just means there's 4 beats in every bar. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 over and over and over again. If this fits with the music you're listening to, you're set. Try and count along. Try and always know where beat 1 is. Make sure you can find it. And not everything works in 4-beat groups. Sometimes there's 3. Sometimes there's 5 or 7 or 9 or other crazy numbers. But most of the time it's 4, and a little bit of the time it's 3. The other numbers just happen much less. So I'm all about making lists. I tell all my students to make lists of so many different things. So if there's any songs you find that aren't in 4/4 time, I want you to make a list. And if there's any songs you find where you can't quite find the beat, or you can't figure out where beat 1 is, make a list of those too, because there's something in there that you can learn from. One more thing. When you're listening to basic drum beats, listen for the snare drum on beats 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not always there, but a lot of the time it is. And that's a really good thing to latch onto. It's a really good thing to get used to. And you're going to get more and more automatic in finding those beats the more you do this. Okay, tip number 3. This wouldn't be an improve your rhythm video without mentioning a metronome. Your classic metronomes are just going to click at you or beep at you. You can download free apps. There's so many of them. And you can change the speed to whatever speed you want as you play. And with metronomes, I love to give a quick analogy. I like to talk about driving. Whether you drive or not, this is going to make sense. So when you're driving, you're trying to stay in your lane. If you veer off this way, you realize that, and you say, oh crap, and you bring it back. You don't have to say, oh crap. And you veer this way, and you realize it, and you bring it back. At first, you have to think about that. But the more you do it, it gets automatic, and you make all these little tiny adjustments so you're always staying within your lane. Playing music is the exact same thing. So you're going to realize you're slowing down and bring yourself back. Or realize you're speeding up and bring yourself back. And eventually, you're going to be automatically making all those little adjustments, and you're going to keep sticking with that beat. Another really cool thing you can do these days is find metronomes that play drum beats, or apps that play drum beats, or even YouTube videos that are just drum tracks to play along to. So it still gives you a rhythm to follow. It's just a lot more entertaining and fun. Whenever you're following along with a rhythm, it's going to improve your sense of rhythm over time. Okay, tip number 4 to improve your rhythm. We call this rhythmic subdivisions in music. And that's just a fancy word for how many times per beat you're playing a note. This is really great practice. It fits perfectly with what we talked about playing with a metronome. And you can see, well, how fast you can go if you're going for speed, how many beats or how many notes per beat you can play. Or you can just get used to the sound and the feel of all of these different subdivisions. So, the great thing you can do is just to do this with some drumming. So let's say, here's my beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2. There's one note per beat, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 2 notes per beat, of course. And 3. 4. And so on and so on. So this is super important. It teaches you to break each beat into very specific pieces. And it's also really good for your creativity. If you're improvising, jamming, even playing rhythm guitar, you can vary how many notes per beat you're playing, and you can create all sorts of cool combinations. I've actually got a really awesome video in I think it's my rhythm workout series, where I go from 1 note per beat all the way up to, I think, 12 notes per beat, which is kind of crazy. And you just try and play along with your picking all the way through. But this applies to any instrument. Very, very cool. So those are the 4 main tips. Now, my final tip, which is sometimes actually the hardest one, is simply to play along with other people, to jam with real human beings. Now, this one is hard for reasons you might not think of, and that's the fact that, well, people aren't perfect. So, when we're talking about that driving analogy, well, imagine if those lines on the road kept moving. You've got to keep making even more adjustments. So, as you're playing with real people, sometimes people have, well, an odd sense of timing, let's put it that way. Sometimes they slow down during a song, sometimes they speed up during a song. And the best thing you can do is to latch onto that beat and to follow along for the sake of the group. Sometimes, if you know everyone's following you, then you can stick to your guns. And you can, if you know you have a good sense of timing, and you can try and stick to those beats. Now, often enough, that's what the drummer should be doing. The bass player should be latching onto that as well. And then everyone can kind of follow those guys. So that's the good news. Tends to be the more accurate or the more sensitive your sense of timing is, the more you're going to be the one adjusting for other people. And that's, again, for the sake of the group. We're trying to make all the music lock in. They might not notice that they're slowing down or speeding up, but if you do, you can follow along and make everything fit. So hopefully that helps you a bunch. All these tips are things you can do for the rest of your life. And rhythm really is everything. The better your sense of timing, the more precise your sense of timing, the better a musician you're going to be. And the more you can fit in with other people, or you can follow recordings, you can do so many cool things with these skills. Sometimes people think the rhythm is really good, and then when they try things like this, they realize maybe it could be a little bit better. So, if you got this far, please like, subscribe, share my channel with anyone who you might think this can help. I'm just getting things started. And thank you so much for joining me. You guys have an amazing day.